People in the arts are often quite strange. Some are reclusive, others deranged. Hey, I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Oh, I just did it again. I never thought it was till then. Oh shit. Wait, a video on poets is really what I meant. Making the whole thing rhyme shouldn't be my intent. Ah, Christ. This is gonna be hard to write. Well, here goes nothing. I'll put up a fight. Eccentric characters have written many a poem. I'll mention a few and there's a chance that you'll know them. If you want to hear some rhymes and learn something new, then I've got some good news. This video is for you. I'm going to discuss some poets that lived, the works that they're known for, and the weird shit they did. The first on the list to start off the show is a man by the name of Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan was young when his mother had passed, and before that had happened, his dad had hauled ass. He was taken in by a family with the last name of Poe. They treated him like their son. 'Twasn't official, although. His father inherited mad money, a lot of bucks, and Edgar went to college to study. He gave no fucks. Because of all the cash, Ed gambled and drank. Eddie did this too much and he broke the bank. He had to drop out against his own will. The listed reason was, bitch can't pay his bill. After years had passed, Poe had been licensed to marry. It seems pretty normal, but it's really quite the contrary. He was in love with his cousin, 13-year-old Virginia. Which is weird as fuck to want to be all up in ya. I think there's a point that should be made aware. Ed was 26, which is also a scare. If this happened today, Chris Hansen would say, "Please sir, why don't you have a seat over there?" Hell yeah, you see me rhyming with that sick-ass rhetoric? I said Poe was a pedo in the form of a limerick. She came down with tuberculosis and Virginia had died. Edgar became melancholic and with booze he'd confide. He'd wander the streets, stumbling, fumbling, drunk, and he'd continue to write in his bumbling, grumbling funk. His cousin had passed and was in the grave end. When Poe was in Baltimore, he wrote The Raven. The Raven is perhaps how Poe is well known, and when it released, his presence had grown. Even though his popularity grew in a flash, from the poem he made a total of $9 in cash. According to peers, he seemed fucked in the head. He acted erratically, then one day he was dead. In terms of how he died, in all of history, no one has a clue. All records were lost. Possible causes, there's more than a few. They even lost his death certificate. Can you imagine that? His death blows my mind because no one knows for a fact. And so that ends the life of Edgar Allan Poe. A fantastic writer, but an incestual pedo. The greatest Russian poet was a man by the name of Alexander. His many works were influential, and he's reckless, so let's take a gander. When he was growing up, he mostly spoke French. Being that he grew up in Russia, this was quite a wrench. He slowly picked up Russian from workers and his nanny. And even when he was young, his poetry was uncanny. He published his first poem at the age of 15. Many had praised him, but there was more to be seen. He hated the government, which is very anti-national, which wouldn't be an issue if he wasn't in Russia's capital. They exiled him elsewhere to quell all the news, that their government was shit. Well, those are Pushkin's views. Even at a young age, he was well known so far, although he couldn't publish due to the Tsar. Which makes sense because the Tsar wouldn't read them and be okay. This guy says I'm awful, everyone should hear what he has to say. 5 years passed until the publishing of Boris Godunov, the play he was famous for, and the uncensored original performance wasn't until 195 years more. You may be thinking, he's just anti-government, that's not crazy, you fool. Well, what if I told you Pushkin fucking loved to duel? He was involved with 26 duels, of which he summoned 21. In other words, the father of modern Russian literature thought shooting each other was fun. From reasons being cheating at cards or arguing at the table, or wanting to thrash a married woman and not being able. Even if the slightest conflict came up on any given day, he'd go, "You want to duel, bitch? Huh? You got something to say?" There were 2 times when his opponent missed after they cocked it and pulled it. Pushkin then let his gun down and said, "You aren't worth the bullet." Pushkin summoned a duel after being called a cuck. He then died in said duel, which is metal as fuck. The pacing wouldn't have worked to put the title in a rhyme, but I was 100% serious with the taunted by cuck line. That's all I'll talk about for the Russian poet's lore. There's an academic branch called Pushkin Studies if you want to know more. In terms of government, one poet's knee won't bend. But here's a different poet who is on the other end. Gabriele de Anuncio inspired Benito Mussolini, who instituted fascism in Italy. Spaghetti fettuccine. Fuck this, I'm not doing this in Italian speak. Even if there was more to say, the rhymes would be weak. A lot of old poets were reclusive like Pynchon. There's also Rosemary Tonks and Emily Dickinson. I can't really say much because there's not much to say, but here's another famous guy who banged people all day. Lord Byron has been described as mad, bad, and dangerous to know, which would be a sick tagline for a villain in a TV show. When he was 8 years old, he had a crush on a distant cousin. Due to his age, it's probably harmless his heart was buzzing. Word spread she married, so she was taken. If you think Byron ignored this, you're horribly mistaken. Whether he was athletic or did well in class, he would always feel empty because he's not tapping that ass. It would be from girls and boys where his love would then stem. Bisexuality was a crime, so he'd beat the shit out of them. This was because he didn't want to be charged with a crime, not because he liked slogging homosexuals in his free time. He was a fantastic poet, that's for certain, but on top of that, he banged many a person. Even after he married, he had many an affair. This put a strain on his marriage, and frankly, he didn't care. She separated from Byron because he felt above her, but this didn't stop him from having many a lover. From the many people he slept with, he helped the human race, because one of his daughters was computer pioneer Ada Lovelace. Ada showed computers could prove to be a greater need. So in other words, we're watching today in part due to Byron's seed. Byron had affairs with taken women, putting marriages on the shelf. When he told one woman to get out, she went and killed herself. The girl he was with bothered him, and when he called finale, she then threw herself into the Venetian Canal. Moments like this happened all through his life because he liked sex way more than he could ever like his wife. To get a concrete number, there's no different account. But what we know is from little boys to his sister, the guy loved to mount. Most of the poets mentioned are older, so the facts are a bit hazy, but we all know one thing's for certain. They're all fucking crazy. For watching this video, I really do thank you. If you enjoyed watching it, your friend just might too.